You can just use one of the USB ports if you want to plug this in and then you can run it from anywhere.
Okay, it's just that, I mean, it's a press play pretty much.
I screwed them all around.
He's behind me.
We lined up in order.
Nobody's under me.
I went to and I recall and I want to listen to their letting me know.
She called me a name.
Oh. Well, I was waiting to find out, because at first it was the same as our Winter Olympics, then I was waiting to see when we were doing this one, and then when I went out, they were full. They're only open right now for Sundays, and I'm like, right now for the 4-hour session. So I'm supposed to let me know like this week or next week, so I'm like, oh, this must have been in the park. Where did you find it?
I didn't see much of it.
That's one that is going
For the kids.
the not skiing.
That's right. That's false advertising right there. Your name
People don't
Working at that key club for the key club, so going to be a lot, I think. We've got 4 kids, 6 kids. Just showed up. So we're going to try to get down there, pick them up, and see what part of our
Oh, okay, great. I have no idea what that was about. All the just
Kinsey River.
he went as he's leaving the house, I'm like, go represent the house.
It was funny because he thought we were at Mackenzie River. So he went alone. He said we had Mackenzie River food. It's not Mackenzie River. So he was at so we waited a little longer to get longer. We got it. Really worked. Right.
Oh,
Candy.
Good job, fellas. How's
it's been better.
Yes.
Someone sabotaged the shower.
You got to trick them up.
Let's put that down.
here and there.
The hyena club's not gonna let this go.
He was like pale away all weekend. We at least got him there Saturday so he could watch. Put him up in one of those suites.
Nice to have an elevator.
Yeah. Yeah. We'll do high class.
Do the 7. We got it. He's nervous. You don't need it though, do you? Should run for a while.
Early for that.
I'm gonna start labeling that corner over there. I know you're right. Be quick dropping that.
She needs a user pass thing.
If not, I can use it on my phone. Okay, one of these days, well, I'll just ask her to show you this free program. Download it. It's a great tool. She has that allows you to search it.
Hamburger fundraiser.
Outline for you.
How long back? How long that
Oh, no,
done?
I don't know how to do that.
It's amazing.
I can never figure out how to say how to
We go get a hamburger and everything else after the
So
board
one of
meeting
these days,
fundraiser.
we'll either stay later, you guys can come earlier. You don't have to pay your own
Steve,
coins.
fundraiser at Elks tonight?
I booked one time.
Is there? Hamburger.
But this must be something different. Yeah.
Oh. They move the meeting along.
Everybody ready? I call this meeting to order. Will everybody please rise for the pledge of allegiance? Mr. Yarber.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for coming out on this bitterly cold night for today's regularly scheduled meeting of the trustees. Quick reminder to everyone, please turn off your cell phone. And a quick question, does anybody plan on making public comments today on non-agenda items? Do we need to go over those rules for public comments on non-agenda items? Okay, seeing none, we'll just jump right ahead into board comments and observations. Do you have any board comments? No? Okay, I do have a couple. I know that the superintendent has some announcements later, but there were a couple that I noticed that were not on the list, and so I wanted to give a couple of shout outs to our high school speech and debate team. They went to state a couple of weeks ago, and the entire team came in the entire team came in fourth, which is quite an achievement, and we had a couple of outstanding individual performances. Taylor Bloomfield placed first in state for informative. Joe McDonald and Davis Smith came in third for public forum debate, and Geneva De Leon came in seventh. Unfortunately, I don't know her event. But so we had some really amazing performances, and for those of you who don't know about those, it's like a 2-day marathon, incredible thing. So we're really proud of that team, and it's a really young team, so they're going to be performing for a long, long time. Also, we had we had 4 performers go to the Poetry Out Loud last week in Missoula for the regionals, and 2 of those will be heading to the state performance in let's see, in March, and also a third will be an alternate. So that was kind of cool.
Great.
So yeah, got some performers. So, anyway, I just want to pass that on.
Whoever goes first gets to steal the thunder. She's over here marking stuff off of her list.
Oh, I'm sorry. Was that on your list? My apologies.
She's gonna add to it.
I did not know that. Okay. Let's see. Moving right along, we've got the approval of the minutes, January 15th. Trustees, do we have any additions or corrections to the minutes as submitted? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted? Oh, I need a motion to approve.
Motion.
A second. We have a motion and a second. Do we need any further discussion? Comments? No. All those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the minutes are approved. Now, I apologize for stealing your thunder. Let's hand it over to our high school representative who has, I know, a long list of other things to go ahead and inform us of.
Okay. Hey, I'm Beatrix Frizzell, and I am the BOG Vice President of Polson High School. As mentioned, we had Polson Speech and Debate January 26th and 27th in Corvallis, which went really well, and Poetry Out Loud in Missoula. And we'll have some kids going to state. Along with that, we had wrestling, state wrestling in Billings this weekend, where Bridger Wenzel took second, Parker Adler took second, and Teo Quinones took third, Cameron took third, and Hunter third, as well as RJ took fifth place. Overall, the team got fourth. Just on January 30th, we had a Treble Choir Festival with the Columbia Falls Choir and the Polson Choir, and at the end of the day, they had a concert that evening. Basketball Districts is in Ronan this week, so along with that, we had the Northwest Band Festival January 28th and 29th, where 3 adjudicators came, and the band worked with the adjudicators for 2 days, and then they had a concert that Tuesday evening. There was a pink out for Chris Sampson at the end of January. And just recently, last night, we had an I Graduate meeting where we had a student panel, and they gave advice on what's working at Polson High School and what's not working. And that went really well. And then we had a hat day last Friday to sponsor Sherman Morrison in Iditarod this coming month. And along with that, prom will be at the high school on March 17th. That's all I've got.
March 17th?
Thank you so much.
The superintendent report will be out.
Yeah. You can tell we're all very proud of all the great things that we're doing in the district, and between all of us, I hope we'll get all of them. Trustees, do you have any questions for Bea while she's here? Okay. Thank you so very much for the report. We certainly do appreciate it. Yeah, and we know that she's very busy and has lots of things to do, so you are excused. You were not required to hang around and listen to us pay bills. We're good. Okay, let's move right along. Item number 3, Polson High School presentation. Mr. Owen and Mr. Goodrich.
First year, right? First year program?
This one, yeah.
This class. Let me stand. Okay.
Show us up there.
Do you need,
Yeah.
you need fired up?
But you can talk over it.
Okay. So,
Mike, you might be in the movies. Be a star.
cool. So I'm Ethan Bucare. This is Brett Owen. So last year, when Mr. Wilson was talking about the idea of starting some new electives, we jumped on board to co-op a class. So we like the idea of working together and coming up with something a little crazy. So we started a new class called Intro to Digital Film and Screenwriting. And there's 3 basic components to that class that we want to highlight. One is a history of cinematography and film
The second being script writing, which is including creative writing and kind of a comprehensive, another way to view writing courses. And then incorporating technology in the classroom through Adobe Premiere and making your own final product. Initially, and we had a lot of great ideas, and then we are getting to it this year, and by trial and error, it's a huge class to undertake. We're glad we did it, but what we have is Destiana and Naveen, and we did a project recently. I'm going to let them explain it a little farther, but we did it, had the school vote on some documentaries, and there's one, so we're going to let them introduce their video and themselves and show you what they've been working on.
So hi, I'm Naveen. So we had to do our documentary on just like things around like anything really, and it has to be like an interview type. So what we thought of is an interview about the special ed room, because we feel like that just not enough people know what happens and stuff, and so we feel like it was kind of underrated, this special ed program, so we wanted to like shed light on it and like let everybody see what it's all about and stuff like that.
Take a look.
Is there volume?
There should be. Do I gotta do anything special for volume?
Yeah.
Wait for it. Good. Try that.
With a disability, and I had teachers that just were not willing to think outside the box. And life is stressful enough as an adult. I mean, when you're a parent and you have a child with disability, school should be the one place you have to stress that. Well, that day is like everybody's on. They're firing. They're doing their work. Things are making sense. It's not necessarily quiet. I don't think quiet equates learning in my room. But every goal that I have for them, they're progressing to that goal and doing it. A bad day is when chaos just rules, whether students have emotional issues, outbursts. And in my room, if one person has a bad day, it kind of pings to two others, and then it just keeps going down, and pretty soon everybody is struggling because it just takes one to get off. So like when Max starts hollering, and that pings off Cody, and then so then Cody starts hollering, and then it pings off Dakota. It's like you try to stop it fast, so I usually like start, so I know that I'm trying to get Max under control, but if I can stop Cody, then it stops Dakota, which then doesn't go to Dothan, and then doesn't go to Martin, and then it just doesn't go off, so you can stop it as fast as you can. And if you get upset, like if I get as emotionally involved as Max is when he is jumping up and down, yelling and screaming, it's not going to calm Max down. It's going to just escalate Max into even more, because he's going to start feeding off of me. It's not easy to stay calm. And so a lot of times if it's a really bad day, I go sit in the bathroom with the lights off and the door closed and just take 5 minutes. I just love teaching them new things and watching them apply it however it is. Whether like, Mercedes finally walked in this year with confidence and has just like blown through multiplication and division, it just like all of a sudden makes sense. And when you can get them to that point of independence, that's the point where I'm like, now we can do anything. I wish we could get them there faster. Like I wish Mercedes hit this point like Cody is now as a sophomore, because then I would have had 2.5 years to do it. In this case, only 9 months. And so I'm excited like for Cody, because he's like all of a sudden decided to show us different things he can do. And so like he went from the beginning of the school year only adding like 3 plus 3, like he wasn't even in double digits, like 10 plus 2. And now he's adding 5 digits to 5 digits and subtracting that same amount with carryover, and like doesn't even need our help. Like he does it all independently and might get 1 answer wrong because he added wrong out of 20. And so then you're like, okay, if we can get him to do this independently, then we can do a job independently. If we can get someone to do a job independently, then they can do something when they graduate. Yes, to like
not be so persnickety. Like, there are just days that I'm trying to process. You know, I've got usually 3 pairs in the room for asking me questions. I have upwards of 1 to 4 TAs, plus all the students. And there are times that kids are like, can we play a game? I'm just like, no. And then I leave the next day, or that night, and I drive home and I'm like, what would it have been? And so, like, in my world, it's like, don't really sweat the small stuff, because you still accomplish what you need to accomplish, and just be happy, because there's too much in the world to get depressed about.
Is there any questions you guys have about the video or anything you want to know?
I would like to note I wore a head cam for a day. I walked around with this lovely helmet that didn't work, and I rocked it.
Try to get some first person view from the GoPro.
That didn't work out.
From when you started filming till post-production and you were ready to show it, how long did that actually take you?
It was about like 4 or 5 days. Really, it was just like leaving the class and going back into the class to get our B-roll and stuff like that, using the camera. And like the interview took about like 10 minutes. It was just, it was really fun actually to go back into the class and like get everybody captioned doing this stuff. It was really fun, like really neat to learn like
how to edit.
How to edit. It was really fun to edit the video, watching all the bloopers and stuff like that. It was really nice.
So was this in your mind easier or harder than you initially thought?
It was easier just because we had so much fun with it, really. I thought it would be very difficult to come up with a 5-minute film. It just sounds more difficult than it really is. But in reality, we had like too much video. We could, yeah, it's really easy to get stuff going when you have fun with it.
It was very engaging.
Yes. Thank you so much.
How about from an educator standpoint, for you guys, what have you learned? It's kind of like flying the airplane.
Yeah.
You're learning how to fly.
I mean, this is the first time we've ever taken on that. It was like our first. We did one project before this that took a little bit of a while to do, but this was like our first get in there, ride it, get it going, and we definitely learned along the way, like how long certain things were going to take. So I think we're progressing for that next one we're about to work on. Yeah. So I think we'll learn some stuff that will help us go forward.
And just the partnership between the
two
absolutely. Bounce ideas off each other.
Yeah, we know how long it takes them to like write certain things before they're ready to start filming. And
we thought we'd be a lot farther in the curriculum, and we thought we'd have had so many products. And we're like, oh, 5 minutes, you guys would. And these guys work well, and then I think it's the. That was me. But definitely the timing and the cooperation has been different.
So what's the next big project?
Well, the idea, our big goal, which we're not sure how it's going to play out yet, but we want to have them write like a pretty long script that they're going to end up filming for ideally like 10 to 15 minutes in length, the movie, and then we're going to try to do like a mini film festival at the end of the year to show off their work. So hopefully that's the ultimate goal, but we don't know, we'll give it a go and see how it goes. Yeah.
You guys, you're like, oh yeah, we can.
These two. I'm not worried about these two. They'll be all right.
How many people are in your class? How many students?
We have 20 right now.
Wow. Did you cap it at 20?
Yeah, kind of for this first year for the most part because we were nervous about how much to take on.
I think with computers, how many computers he has and what we can do in my classroom.
I have about 20 to edit on, so.
Good work.
Yeah, thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right.
Next one. Thank you again. Next agenda item number 4 is the Polson Scholarship and Education Foundation. Mr. Dage, is that you?
Kind of. It's more Chris than me, but.
Oh, okay. Should I have everyone who's here representing stand up and introduce themselves? Should I have a better way to do this?
Chris is going to do the talking tonight, I think, but I came just to support her.
Oh, okay.
I need his support now.
All right.
Now I came to present Lori with a check for, well, the school district with a check for $2,000 for 2 scholarship, or grants, teacher grants from our Polson Education and Science Scholarship and Education. And one, Lori's, is for snowshoes that she has ordered and was hoping that she would have them in time for their health day, but it didn't happen.
We didn't go in time, but they're there, and that way we can go whenever we have snow.
Which one do you Wednesday?
Yeah, Wednesday,
Yes.
snow. But anyway, Lori applied to us, and for anybody that doesn't know what we do, we have a grant that we can give teachers that they request things up above and beyond what they are doing in their classroom. And if it's a novelty, we are glad to support them with up to $1,000. So that's for Lori. And the other one, I have to apologize to Stacy Ellis because we didn't allow Stacy, and I hope you get your books in time.
I think they're on their way. I think they should be here. If they're not sitting over here, they should be here tomorrow.
Okay, good. Because there was a misunderstanding, because last year we gave a grant for $1,000 for a literacy night for parents and students, and they did bingo. And so a couple of us who are former English teachers thought we really would like to support this, but what happened to the $1,000 we gave you last year? Well, it was a different school. Yeah, so this year Stacy applied, and I don't know why there was a mix-up. I don't know if we didn't know it was for Cherry Valley, or if it was, there was just a big mix-up. But anyway, even before she said, where's my, did you decide on my grant? It was kind of late. I said, yes, we did decide on your grant, but then the person that usually contacts her is out of state. So I decided, well, okay, I'll do this one. And Stacy gets $1,000 for a bingo, books for bingo at Cherry Valley. Linderman did it last year. Hopefully you have good luck. Oh, other way around. That's okay. So, yeah. Anyway, I have a check now then for $2,000 and
Thank you very much.
And then
I'll take the check.
If not, I think we have a meeting here tomorrow.
Bring it back. Strom, S-T-R-O. Thank you. And so last year we gave, I think, what, $19,000, $15,000?
Just
$15,000.
A little over $14,000.
And this year, well, Mr. Crosby was one of our beneficiaries.
That was last year, yeah.
Last year. And so anybody that has connections with teachers, tell them to apply because we have money. And we've only gotten 2 applications so far this year.
So we have about, we're hoping to do this over about a 3-year period, and we received $30,000 for that 3-year period. So we have $28,000.
Between Doug and I, we'll put it back out again.
Yeah, I think there was an email that went out at the beginning of the year, but that was the beginning of the year and everybody.
Yeah.
So time to do it again.
It's a pretty simple process, and we're pretty easy going most of the time and grant them if they're really good ideas. And I did just receive one more today.
Oh, okay.
And,
I say yes.
See how easy it is, guys? But anyway, thank you for that, and I really apologize for the mix-up.
No worries. We're super excited.
Well, good. Yeah. And He says he's going to go take pictures.
Right?
Yes, I'm coming right.
You're gonna be there?
You bet.
Okay.
School trustees, I think we ought to applaud our teachers for their great innovative ideas. And the foundation for the generosity of last year and this year. Thank you so very much. Okay. Let's keep this moving. Number 5, superintendent's report. Mr. Wells.
Well, we will move through some of this that's already been spoken on. If you haven't had a chance to ever be at a state wrestling event in Billings, everyone's there, right? If you haven't, that's what it looks like. So if you're trying to find your kid in that crowd, wrestling is difficult. But we did meet with a parent, a dad today that attended state wrestling, and there's an app now that you can download that you can find where your son's wrestling, son or daughter's wrestling, and at what time, what weight class. And so, pretty cool app to keep track of. That's not the way it's always been. Again, we heard this. This is some of the work that Mr. Gunderson does for all of our athletes. Good stuff going through that. As my report states, some recognition. Mrs. Wilson, or Miss Wilson. So we had a resignation in the music department at Linderman. And about 2 days before a concert was going to get kicked off and perform. And so I got emails from her staff just stating, amazing job, ran off music, conducted the program. Come to find out that she's got a little music background, and so she was able to step up to the plate and was an amazing concert for the kids. And so just her extra effort to go above and beyond. I asked Ms. Kelly to be here just briefly to help us with, in your packet, you'll see that there's a snowshoe event for Unified Special Olympics. It's going to take place. Can you tell us briefly what that looks like?
So Special Olympics Montana canceled their winter games at Whitefish after 23 years. It's on hold indefinitely at this point due to funding issues, and because they've started this unified program where you add in regular education peers with athletes, which Destion and Naveen have both participated in up at the high school. They increased, I think it was 1,300 athletes or 2,300 athletes last year. So they're possibly looking at bringing it back once every 4 years. So last year was our first time, and we had snowshoes bought for us, and so I had 40 snowshoes. And I was like, okay, we have to do something. Once we kind of knew, it started out as a one-year project, because Special Olympics was like, for 1 year we'll cancel Winter Games. It's looking long-term now. So we put an invitation out to the schools going down the highway. So that was Ronan, Charlotte, St. Ignatius, Arlee, and ourselves, and Flathead Lake Buccaneers, which is a feeder school for Polson High School. So any graduates go to that team. So we started, Arlee was the only one that declined for this year to do it. So on Monday, February 26th, we have, I wrote this out, we have 102 people coming related to teams with the schools. Athletes, I'd have to figure that out. We're getting 30 or 40 volunteers, and that doesn't count the first responders, the police, and ambulance fire department that's coming to help hand out ribbons. We're looking at next year, because we're calling this Res Wide, and since I grew up on the reservation, I'm in talks to getting Arlee for next year. They may or may not. I'm talking to Mr. Perry, who is Hot Springs, and then I'm going to go talk to Dayton and Dixon, because they all are part of it, and as long as you are 8 years old and above, you can qualify for any. I've also talked with Ms. Wilson to see if we can incorporate some of the schools, however we do the younger kids. I'm used to doing a K-12 program whenever I've done Special Olympics, so I'm trying to incorporate more. So we're looking at that. We've also gone around and got sponsorship. Special Olympics is helping for this year. And so they're helping us get t-shirts and pay for lunch for 200 plus people. So right now we've raised through sponsorships $1,750 for the next year's coming, so that we can reduce the cost onto the school. Gage Accounting was one of them. We also had UPS, Total Screen, and Walmart have donated merchandise to us versus just a money amount. So it's kind of consumed my world for the last month and a half or so. As Mr. Weld said, we should do this in perpetuity one day. And then he looked at me and he went, what's wrong? And I went, it's okay, my blood pressure's coming down. Okay. I'm like, I've never done one. So mine is just literally like remembering what I do when I go somewhere. So my goal is that we have the least amount of mistakes possible come February 26th. So I encourage anybody to come. We'd love to fill the stands with fans to cheer everybody on.
And snow.
And so, actually, if not, we run on grass. And I'm going to do a shout out because Mr. Krantz has dealt with me in his office about every other day going, and by the way, and where would I and he's been very helpful, so I appreciate it.
Question, what time?
It's running from 9 to 5. Actually 8 to 5, but competition is not from 9 o'clock on.
We're all invited. If anybody would like to come and just watch.
If anybody wants to come watch, if anybody would like to volunteer, we are looking for volunteers to run timers, hold signs. You can be the one that shoots the gun. I wrote gun shooter down. I thought I should I don't know what to call that part.
Let's call it a starter.
Is it starter pistol? Okay. I wasn't ever.
Just make sure Caleb's not reporting that behind you.
And I know where that one is located.
Moving on quickly, you heard about the Northwest Band Festival. 4 schools visiting, or 3 schools visiting was Libby, Steve I, and Hamilton. There's information email in your packet that I handed out. I think it's important to note that we had a paint-out night, as we heard about, but what it was for Chris Sampson's battling cancer, breast cancer at the moment. So our heart and thoughts are up to hers as well. She battles that ferocious disease. And graduation, I wanted to show this to you. Prior to that, we had senior night, Saturday night. At that same time, we also once again recognized SKC and their hospitality and their generosity with their gym facilities. It's been an outstanding relationship between the two organizations, and we again recognize, and there's per a conversation I had with Ms. McDonald, is that in the paper we recognize them. I know Mr. Krantz has got something tonight as well, but we also provided and served the plaque as well, just to recognize an appreciation of their willingness to help us out. It's been really phenomenal. And our students love the facility. It's just, they really like it. I may not ever get Mr. Krantz back out of that facility. Something I wanted to show you, it's a quick graph. It's in your packet as well. The other day I read an article out of the Flathead, and they're commending a high school up there with about an 87.5% graduation rate. What I want to show you is that, you can go through my numbers quickly. Our Polson High School state average right now, if you read any of our Graduation Matter stuff, it's state average across all students at senior level, 85.8%. 85% of all graduates, or all students graduate. Polson High School this last year was 97.3. Very commendable. In the state, some quick numbers, in the state, our non-native, our white students are 88%, and the state average for native students is 69%. Does that make sense? So non-native, 88, native across the state, 69%. In Polson School District, I'm going to stand beside you guys. Polson School District, our non-natives, 97.6%, opposed to the state average at 88, non-native. And our native students at Polson High School is 96% this year, and state average is 69. A quick snapshot, but that is one that I'm proud of. And there's I put in there for your previews that it's a 5-year average there. And a couple of students will make those numbers go up and down, but I think that it's a good trend. You see where we're at. My second year here, we had a real low average of graduates across the board, and since then it steadily has climbed. And so looking at state average, I like where we're at. It's, again, always want 100%, but it's good where we're at.
So do you think that's overall school culture? Is that specific intervention strategies that you have implemented?
all of the above. One, I think, is that we implemented that that first year, that 12-13 or 13-14 school year, we implemented the graduation coach. That has certainly helped. Policies of how we deal with students that are struggling. Part of the graduation coach. We've also implemented Core Flex, where our students, we have less kids now than we had before that are credit deficient. A lot of that is, I believe, is the school culture, link program. Kids feel welcome in our school, still need improvement. I also think Core Flex, where kids are there are less kids credit deficient now than there have been before, so they are more apt to stay in school. I think there's a combination. There's not one silver bullet, but I know that we've had 4 different school districts coming to us asking what we're doing, what are the processes that you have in place, and they're emulating that now, or trying to. So it's
we have a lot to be proud of. This is phenomenal. This is really great.
It's good, and I mean, at no time do we ever want to say, "Whew, we made it." We got lots of work to do yet. It's still, but the trajectory line is going up, and it's not down, and so we're going the right way. We still have a lot of work to do. By no means are we there yet.
Mr. Welch, did you say 5-year average?
Those are
individual year averages.
Yeah, right. 5 years of data. Does that make sense? Is that better? Yeah. Individual years, 5 years.
This is a lot higher than it was when I got on the board,
Yeah.
though. A lot higher.
Absolutely.
Carl, I put a lot more work on pressure on Carl right now, is that he's doing a lot of data work for us, and so we're just now getting to the point where we can start pulling reports, data, as you asked for. So Carl, Mr. Elliott has put that data together for us. This is important. I know I'm getting a little longer in my reports, but this is important. There's a letter, and I believe this one was to Mr. Yarbrough, but this was handed. This letter was presented, actually, the county superintendent, and it was. I knew it was going to be hard to see, so that's why you have it in your packet. And this was in reference to the tragic situation of our 7th grade student, and the communication, the thought process, K-12, not just a specific building, that all the administrators came together, and we met 2 or 3 different times on how we're going to get through this. And we were presented this letter back to all the principals. Every principal got a letter back from trying to say that they appreciated seeing principals not just being there, but really concerned and for the family. And so I thought that was important. In fact, we had maybe the first time in a long, long time that we've ever had that type of reach back out and say thank you for what you've done. But that was important. And our admin team, it wasn't just a couple people, but it was everybody that was associated with that event, tragic event. So I think that was very important for us to be recognized and to care about kids. Quick things, and I will go through this fast. Things that I've gone to, Leaders Professional Learning Program, that's our school administrator of Montana went to that. I just finished my 2nd Montana Suicide Prevention Response Negotiation Rules Committee. That was, now is going to get moved on to the Board of Education. It's an accreditation change, and so it had to have, it goes through that process, it'll go back to legislation, it will end up being back with our state superintendent. And there's going to be changes through that whole system. And so we just started the baseline, and they're going to change it as it goes, as needed. So stay tuned to where we're at there. We had Tribal Education Valley Superintendent meeting across the valley. All the supes got together, and with Julie Cadoon, really concentrated on attendance. They're very interested in helping us with attendance. We don't know what that looks like yet, but they have the desire to help us there. And also talk about our Tribal Ed meeting date in September. By the way, it's 17th this year, for sure this time. Also attended Northwest Mass Superintendent's meeting up in Kalispell. There's something that you may not know about, but we have mentor-mentees for new teachers. We know in the first 3 years, if we don't keep young teachers, that they will move on, high potential of teachers moving on. We have a mentorship program, and at the middle of the year, the mid-year, they have you come together. And this year it was a Wild West show. I think it was a mystery. And anyway, they went and got together on the weekend, had dinner, had a mystery game, and just really tried to connect our young teachers with our veteran teachers. That took place. Obviously, the K-12 book study, we're still on that, the fourth one. You'll see in your packet that Mr. Elliott gave us the, did I skip one of those there? Our count date. There it is. You can see that count. It's 1629, second count. So I think we started at what, 1648, so we're down, but traditionally in the that second count date, we are down. We start high and then end up lower. But what I wanted to show you there, trustees, is look at that yearly average. Where are we, like, where are the kids going, or where they're not going? And traditionally, we're right in that 1600 mark. And we did that, remember that study that we had, that was the population density study, and it was projecting we're going to be 1800, 1900. What I want to say is that we're 1600. Unless something drastically changed, we're right in that 1600 level. And I don't ever want to just think the sky is falling or that something's going to big happen. It's the data is really the proof right there. We maintain that. We start high, we end up in the mid-16s. And lastly on my list is, I did skip over our graduate meeting, but we heard about that one already. The Stipend Review Committee. I started here in 2012. One of the first things I heard was that the stipends are all over the board, there's inequity, and I've been chewing on that. And so we finally had an opportunity for a committee to come together and let's analyze it. And so I will commend Mr. Crosby has built a spreadsheet with all A schools and what do we pay in comparison to all other A schools based on a base percentage salary, not what you make at Frenchtown as a football coach with all your years of experience and me here. It's at the base level. So we try to keep it as equitable as possible. And we've now, that's 2 times, and we need a few more, but we don't have an end result to this committee yet, but we are looking at how we pay versus how other schools pay. And I think it's a really good data. It just solves some urban legends, if you will.
Right, but it's also turned out to be a lot bigger discussion than just that. Because we've had, most of the discussion is talking about how do we grow these athletics, grow these speech and debate, grow the numbers of kids involved in extracurricular activities, because the competition out there for kids' attention is huge. But if we can get them involved with these extracurricular activities, then that's what we want to do. And so it's kind of a two-pronged approach. You know, are we paying what is equitable? And also, how do we build in supports lower down so that we can get kids hooked in on those things earlier on and then use that to grow our programs. So,
and
great committee.
Have some of that baseline, what else is going on out there, what are other people doing? I mean, I remember when we first started having that discussion, she's like, it was just kind of all over the board. So
we have a lot of good information, and we're also looking at, we've got some things that other schools do that we don't do. We do some things that other schools don't do. So it's going to take a while, but I think it's a good group of people, and everyone's pretty actively engaged. So
thank you for the time and work. I know that's not easy stuff. It's very time consuming. I appreciate it.
It's been very helpful. It's going to break down some misconceptions.
Okay. Good stuff. Anybody have any questions for our superintendent? Did you have anything else?
No, that was it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Lots of good stuff on it. Okay, looks like you are continuing our discussion with number 6, the Linderman project update.
Again, Linderman. I had Alan and Steve join us about a week and a half ago, wasn't it? Friday. A week ago Friday. And the discussion this week in our meeting really stems around, again, obtaining a second opinion, if you will, another structural engineer report that was directed through Travelers Insurance. They brought somebody else in, another structural engineer, to assess the building, if you will, really do an inventory of what they see. I did an article with the Missoulian last week, and it indicated that we got our structural report back from Missoula, Tom Bodette, and there are some concerns in his report of the integrity of the building. And then went on to say that he recommends that we do more assessment of the building, but he would be all right with that we could occupy the building, the gym. And I will say on record that I am not comfortable yet for us to be in that gym. There are some hazards that we talked about that we want to mitigate. And I think that's important, is that there are some concerns that we want to mitigate before we put students and staff in our community back in that building. And so the second report generated by Travelers was welcome. I want to see that. And I had a conversation with the Travelers representative this morning, and that report will be back to us within a week. She gave me a 2-week time frame. And so that gives the data is really important for us to move forward. You'll see on the agenda later this evening, we're going to ask for approval for RFQs for a construction manager and an engineer. Because at that point, what we want to decide, what we want to know is we know what's wrong. How do you fix what's wrong and at what cost? And that's why we need to get the approval on the construction or the alternative construction method. And so we need those approvals so that we can get moving forward with that. So I don't have a lot on the limit other than that we are, hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
Both trustees were there. They may have another thought on it as well as we've gone through it. Does that sound about right?
Looking forward to that section. I'd like to see that second report.
In that, again, that's going to be this week.
Any questions, trustees?
So why is it interesting that the gaps are at the top of the cracks?
Indicates stress. So if that bond beam is sitting like this,
right,
and you think the pressure is a downward force, that gap, the kerf, should open at the bottom.
Right. So
For it to be opening at the top, something else is going on.
Okay.
It's like if you're cutting firewood with a chainsaw, you watch the kerf, and you know where the pressures are coming from. Same. There you go. Same principle.
It's bowing out is what's happening.
Okay.
It's going north and south. What side is it?
And then my only other question is, what is a WYTHE 3 width?
That's the width of, the number of blocks width.
WYTHE? Just curious.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's like 3 blocks thick.
It's in my not in the tool bag.
Well, we're the next one. Any other questions, trustees? Okay. You let us know when that next report comes in.
Yeah, sure will.
Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, and next item on the agenda, number 7, is the Indian Education Committee update. Do we have anyone here for that?
No, we were at confirmation this morning that we would. Obviously, and I will speak quickly to that last IEC meeting. Pete Plant has been the president for the last 2 or 3 years, or maybe more. I've seen a lot of growth in IEC committee. The participation and the numbers have been outstanding. He resigned on our last meeting, and so they're in the process of determining the next president.
When's that next meeting? Is that next Monday or Tuesday? The next regularly scheduled meeting?
I don't know. I'll let you know. I don't know. It's, yeah, I will.
Okay, thank you. Moving on, number 8, activities update. Mr. Cranks?
What would you like to know?
So we covered you.
Yeah, I've pretty covered you already.
Samson told me to keep this really short, but I don't know. When's my new gym coming? No, I went to, just got back from the winter meeting. There actually was only 2 proposals on, and I think it's something that's going to happen pretty quick. They're really pushing 8th graders to compete at the high school level. And it's not unheard of, that's for sure. They go, you know, there's some states that go into 7th grade, for crying sakes. And we've been fighting it. I've been fighting it. It was going to take 66% to pass it, and they got 60 this time. So they're keep pushing it, and it's because the numbers are so low and the demographics in Montana is, you know, they're combining all those schools together, and they're still not having enough kids to compete. And you can understand that. I think it's coming. You can petition right now to get 8th graders to compete on the varsity level and stuff. If you go through the MHSA, in fact, St. Regis had a girl here a couple years ago that did so.
If that happens, do we have to let our students
You do
that?
not.
Okay.
No, you do not. That's definitely a school decision and stuff, but it incorporates more than just having the 8th graders in, because then you're going to deal with eligibility issues as far as grades and everything else that you're going to have to keep track of with the 8th grade kids coming into there. And I'm not quite sure where it's going to lead to, you know, because if a parent feels that their child is good enough to compete at the varsity level, they may be moving to here for a little bit and shuffling them around to try to get them to compete at the varsity level. And I don't, you know, there's some things that 8th graders, 7th graders especially, are not ready for.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, practice every
Right,
night
right.
and traveling.
Yeah,
and
yeah. There's a lot of issues with it. I was more in favor of right now we've got a 5-quarter rule in basketball, of kicking the quarter rule up to 6 for freshman kids that are in there right now, to where kids can spread themselves out a little bit. That can be open to abuse too. But I was more in favor of that than having 8th graders. Anyway, it didn't pass, but I'll bet it's coming. It's coming. They raised the fines, which we haven't incorporated yet. If you don't do your rules and stuff on it at a certain time, they used to charge you $50, and they kicked that up to $100. And so we try to really work hard to make sure the coaches get all of their classes and stuff in that they need to, and the rules of committees and stuff, and we haven't got gigged so far. Everybody said speech and debates over, had a good season, good turnout, and I expect more kids next year. We hired another coach this year. There was one always on the docket that we hadn't used as the numbers were dwindling. Got that back, and it seems like there's some good excitement about speech and debate. Wrestlers had a good, successful season. Some placers at the state level. Brackets are out for the district tournament. And so I sent those out. I still don't understand Google, for crying sakes. But I sent it to the district, and so I don't know how many of you received that, the brackets and stuff that are set to it. So spring sports begin March 12th, and we've got some, that's coming right around. We've got some things that we're going to be involved in. We've got the super divisional track meet, which is, we had the Lake County track meet, the divisional track meets, which incorporates our 12 schools, and so it's going to be a huge track meet, along with our ABC track meet. So I pawned off the Lake County track meet again to Ronan, and they were decent enough to take that again, because you just ask for so many volunteers week after week after week, and it gets a little bit old. So they are taking that, and then when we get done with that, we've got the state tennis meet between Ronan and ourselves in here. So a lot of things coming up in the near future, especially scheduling for next year. which will be the 13th and 14th of March. And so I've already started trying to figure out where we're going to hold everything. We used to hold, especially we go into the fall, we're in great shape with our stadium. Where to hold the volleyball. Our high school gym, we used to have it there for you old timers that were here. We used to have it there a lot. The problem I see is it's always the locker room. Even the things that I've ran up there so far is trying to get the boys the heck out of the locker room for the girls to be able to use it. And so I've even looked at trying to possibly place our volleyball down at SKC too. And they seem to be very open to that. Juan's checking on his basketball schedule and stuff for next year, but we'll have to go into some kind of meeting with them and the president and stuff, and they're very accommodating, willing to work with whatever we need to do. Dan Giles suggested we bring in a portable locker room.
Here?
Yeah. But so it's going to play, we've done a ton of, you call them dual varsity games and stuff that we just cannot run without having 4 locker rooms. So I'll have to look at that as we go into the season. We can still run those if we do them at SKC.
Question.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a charge like that we have to pay to use SKC, or are they just right now agreeing to let us?
Right now, nothing. And I haven't been in on that end of it as far as, you know, and they haven't even come to me and say, well, okay, here's your bill. And we've been able to run our concessions. We split the profits with them. They supply all of the food and everything for it, and then we split it in half, which has been really nice on our part. I stocked Linderman right before the roof decided to go, but they were good enough to come back and take that out of there. And so that's worked pretty well, but we've brought a janitor down there every time we've had a game to clean the stands, take care of that part of it. We've brought all our own basketballs and stuff down. So we've been running it as it's ours, tickets and everything else, but lots of buses. Thanks, Mike.
I have heard a lot of good things from the community. It's been nice for both sides. Folks have been like, I've never been to that facility before, and people are so nice. And so I think it's been good for lots of folks, just to kind of more bridging and, you know, all of that, which has been great for people.
Right.
You know, it's too bad that, you know, we have to use another facility, but yeah, it can't last forever.
Well, and we went with Ronan again on the cross-country meet before all of this happened, and gosh, I don't say her last name wrong. Is it Boham?
Boham.
Sandra, down at, and she has just loved the fact that we've had a whole bunch of high school kids and stuff going down and seeing what that campus looks like.
Yeah.
You know, and the facilities and stuff, and geez, the first game we held in there with Ronan, it was just full, you know. And
that was the other question I was going to ask. How has attendance been as far as people coming out?
Especially the Ronan game, it was a great crowd. I think some of the ones that we get, depending on the weather, that were regularly coming to the Linderman Gymnasium or maybe not making that trip down there, but it hasn't been bad. It hasn't been low by any means. Obviously, they can hold a few more people in there than we could here, but It is a great place to administer a game, I'll tell you that. We don't have as many doors to look at. We don't have nearly problems with either people trying to sneak in or kids trying to, you know, running around out in the halls or anything like that. It's wiping. Linderman's kind of a nightmare with wiping the floor, getting wet and stuff. So we've always got somebody there, people walking in front of the coaches. It's
there's something to be said about having end zone seating where your student section is.
Yeah. So it's been a great experience so far, but I know we need to get together with SKC, and I know Sandra's really busy right now. She couldn't be at the presentation the other night because she was headed to Washington D.C. to ask Trump for some money or something. I don't know. And so she's got a kind of a month full of lots of meetings and stuff everywhere, but it needs to be more than just me going down there. I'd rent the place for the next 5 years if it was me. We'll do the best we can with what we've got. That's how we get it.
Well, unfortunately, we don't have any more answers for you yet. We just other than answers we don't have, is there anything else we could do for you?
Think about that.
I think we need to give you some direction though before 13th, 14th, before
right.
we start.
That I would appreciate, because I'm assuming the school calendar is going to be out by then.
Yeah, I'm going on and say which
yeah, that's kind of
good to say.
Okay. Any questions for Jay? Thank you, Jay. Okay. Board committee updates. I think we can go through this pretty quickly. Facilities committee, anything other than what we've already talked about?
We did actually meet last week.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't want the other schools thinking we were ignoring them just because of the main project. So,
we're kind of consumed with it. You're right, you're right.
But the good thing was there's nothing really major to add to the list as far as going on. I was hoping Scott Wilson would have been here tonight because I wanted him to maybe give a little update. I know he's working hard on the auditorium seating. Hopefully we can get that this summer, some new seats. And I know there was a mention, Chad, Dan said not blue. So a lot of people see the curtain and think it's blue. Yeah, they don't want that. So they're more or less looking towards the black color possibly. So, but on the seats. But hopefully we'll get that, and I'll get the Scott just to make sure. I know he's been on it.
Okay.
So that's the major thing really to report as far as that goes. And I know they're looking at replacing flooring at the faculty entrance to high school as well as down the band hallway. So, and at the main entrance out into the lot, past the lot in the entryway part. So,
Scott, Ms. Wilson's at the Title I conference tonight in Bozeman, but he has been working with Gary Becky this week.
He's
global experts.
Any questions for Adam, trustees? Okay. Policy committee, Steve and Shannon, anything other than what we'll be looking at later in the agenda? Okay. Budget committee, we didn't have any ad hoc meetings. Negotiations committee, that is passed. Caucus committee, that's pretty much, we're past that time. Transportation committee.
I know they had a meeting. Mike, I know went, but there wasn't really much that got done, from my understanding. There's some bus route changes, not only us, but probably others.
And we didn't discuss it. There was just had a bus route change, but we have to go through this process before we go to them.
And we're going to be talking about a bus route change later in the agenda. Okay. All right. Superintendent evaluation committee.
We haven't met.
Okay. But you guys are emailing back and forth. Yeah. You guys are active.
We're acting.
You guys are active.
We're active.
Core value committee, I know another meeting has been scheduled.
It has.
It's in my calendar, I can't remember the date, but
March
all y'all
8th.
got it?
Seeing none, moving on, all right. Number 10, the budget report, Pamela.
And I had, I'll start, Pamela's out.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes.
Out ill. I have got Ms. Finkbeiner, Ms. Crow, and Ms. Wilson all out with flu today. And we also have Pamela out ill, so that's.
A lot of weight on the shoulders
Yeah,
today, though.
yeah, you know.
Any questions for Pamela, we'll have to take after her.
Yeah, if you guys have any questions on anything, she did her report and there's nothing really out of line. We're slightly up to prior year, but that also attributed, it could be when I paid claims in a certain month and so on and so forth, so it's not very much. But if you have any questions on anything.
Any questions, trustees? Okay. Let's go ahead and move right on to the consent agenda. At this time, are there any issues that need to be removed from the consent agenda for individual consideration? Seeing none at this point, I would accept a recommendation, a motion for approval for the consent agenda as submitted.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Second. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda as submitted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The consent agenda is passed as submitted. Moving on to new business. Number 12, recommendation to approve construction manager at risk RFQ. Mr. Wells.
Again, as mentioned earlier, the recommendation is to approve a construction manager at risk for request for qualifications. Carl pulled together and produced this document with state statute. What we're looking for is a construction manager that would work along an engineer that can work in tandem of answering and developing a plan moving forward with the gym.
Trustees, do you have any questions? Rex, I do have a question. It's developed as a draft. I'm assuming that it's written in this way so that once you do get that final information that you can go ahead and put in the dates and publish that RFQ without having to come back to us for approval. Okay. Any other comments or questions? If not, at this point, I would accept a motion to approve this draft RFQ as written.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further comments or discussion?
How are we paying for it?
Will be part of the building reserve funds.
Okay.
Will be passing.
Any other comments?
Is that going to be in, sorry.
No.
Where's the budget person?
Yep.
Is there enough funds in our budget to do that, however, not knowing what we're going to have to pay for the gym and what the insurance will pay?
There is a lack of understanding of what the gym's going to cost. We had in our construction meeting this morning or this afternoon is how far does Travelers recognize the weakness of the gym. There's pieces and parts to the sheetrock and the wall and even the north wall that could be a potential problem from the collapse of parapet. So we got to still work with the insurance company to see how far they recognize the damage just from the wall to the north. So we don't know that answer. For this study, yes, we'll have enough.
Okay.
One thing that engineers and architects don't give you is how much things are going to cost. Or an architect will give you, this is what it looks like, but an engineer doesn't give you the dollar figure. So it's by hour. So we'll have to keep an eye on it. And we have some funds that we can do that with, but we don't have an exact number, and nor can we get one from them.
Ms. Wells, can I add to that? The first part of the project should be reimbursed by insurance. And really their first function is to find out what it takes to fix it. And then the construction manager works with the engineer to determine the cost. Then we'll be back to you and say, what do you want to do? And if we continue to the second phase of reconstruction, that'll go out to bid, and you'll have a different set of things to approve at that point. But this is really just to open the process up so we can advertise it. Once we make a selection, we'll bring that back to you for you to approve the selection. So we're not, you won't be cut out of this. It's just kind of the first phase of the project.
I have a son that designs schools, and that's all he does, and so that's why, you know, cost is in my mind, because I know what it costs them to do that.
And,
that's what he does.
you remember, the other thing that we have put in place in the last couple of years is that new policy when it comes to contracts.
Right.
Any contract that goes over its initial amount has to come back to us regardless of any cap, to us for approval. So
I guess I'm just concerned on the overall.
Oh, no, I
this
understand.
whole gym thing, and talking to my son, is what the cost is gonna be if we have to do a lot more structural than what we had anticipated.
Once we get all that info.
It's kind of scary.
Oh, yeah.
So there, if I might add on that, Cindy, the same thought is that this is just to figure out how much.
Right.
At that point, how are we going to fix it and how much it's going to cost? That's what we're trying to determine in the second phase of this. Then we come together and determine, are we going to do that? And the other factor that we haven't talked about is there's going to be an upgrade to codes. As we rebuild, the code has to be understood. We do have policy for code upgrade on the locker room. It may not be in the gym, and that's where I say we have to start working with the insurance to find out how far did the damage transcend into the gym, not just the locker rooms. So there's still some conversation, but through this whole process, when we get to the next step, we come together, we talk again, and make that determination.
Well, my concern is, because I've talked to my son about this, and his comment was, depending on how much we have to do, we're gonna have to do everything to today's code.
Yep.
And that building was built way back, 1940, 50 or 50. So the codes have changed so much since then that we could be facing a lot of expense that is not going to be covered by the insurance, most likely.
A lot of it will be, but some of it won't.
Yeah.
And that's what part of this first phase will be, is digging through the code with the building inspector here in Polson, with the architect, with the engineer, they deciding together what sets of codes are going to be required. We know the new construction has to be totally up to code.
Yeah.
It's how we respond to the other part. Are they gonna require a sprinkler system because it's a performance gym? Are they going to require ADA accessibility because it's a performance? Those are some of the questions that we still don't know yet that will be hammered out through this process.
Okay.
And the insurance company, it has already given you a base amount of basically what?
No.
We don't have an amount of what covers for?
No, not yet.
We have
Which is why this states that the project cost is not yet known.
But even for what has happened, the damage, we don't have any?
No, because we don't know what they're going to require.
And we don't even know the extent.
We haven't gotten their report back from their engineers, so we don't know.
And there's not a complete agreement on the extent of the damage even. We're getting a second opinion on that.
Travelers, it escalated from Payne West to that $250,000 threshold. They figured it was going to be more than that. That's when Travelers takes over.
Okay.
And so Travelers, so that gives us, okay, so they're in their thoughts. They're thinking it's going to be over the 250. And then when we walked through the premise, their adjuster was looking at things within the building, and she ordered the structural engineer to come back and do a total assessment of the building, which indicates, not saying it does, but it indicates to me that there's some concern of the damage throughout the building, not just the locker room. She didn't say, don't look over there, because that wasn't us. There was a complete assessment of the building. But as far as funds written, nothing as of yet.
There's no commitment yet, so.
I guess I'd just like to understand their coverage a little bit better. I mean, for example, are we covered for compensating SKC for the use of their gym? I mean,
we are. So when we met with her, bus transportation to and from. Overtime for hourly employees, not salary, overtime. If we had to bring in a portable classroom, those are covered.
Portable locker rooms.
Portable locker room.
And they've been documenting all of anything that might even be close to considered to be reimbursable as part of this, just in case, and we'll submit it all.
And
Okay.
they come back with, what is the mediation strategy? What avenues do we have to mediate if we don't agree? What is that, how is that spelled out in that policy?
I don't know.
I'm just trying to looking for trouble where there may
Yeah.
not be. I'm just curious.
I don't think we've ever dealt with anything even close to this.
You know, tabletop.
Okay.
Okay,
That's good.
we have a motion and a second to approve the RFQ for the construction manager as at risk as written. Do we have any further comments at this point? Do we have any comments from the public? If not, then I say we take a vote. All those in favor of approving the construction manager at-risk RFQ as written signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The RFQ is approved. And now let's move on to number 13. This goes right along with it, the recommendation to approve the structural engineering RFQ.
Again, I recommend that we approve the memo that Mr. Elliott had generated. This is for an engineering firm that will help us identify how to respond to the energy crisis.
Any questions? At this point, I would entertain a motion to approve that RFQ for the structural engineer. Second. We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Do we have any comments from the public? All those in favor of approving the structural engineering RFQ signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The RFQ for the structural engineer is approved. Okay, number 14, appoint the 2018-2019 calendar committee. We need one or two board members who would be willing to serve on the short-term committee. Do you have any volunteers?
Sorry.
Unless somebody else wants.
I'm so booked for the next
Okay.
3 months.
You two will do it?
I'll do it.
Okay, that's fine. Who wants to be on it? Because we've got.
I'll do it.
Okay. So you two? Okay. So you got that?
So it's Alan and Steve? Is that true? Okay. Thank you.
Chanel and I bought quite a bit of Safeway freezer talk this last year. I'd like to share that with you before the committee, if you wouldn't mind.
Freezer talk?
Yeah. One of those, oh, please, do you have to do it right here in front of the frozen food? Really? Could we not move it somewhere else? Why is it always in front of the frozen food? People want to complain? I don't know.
So you have your ice cream back here.
Okay, number 15, recommendation to approve policies. Mr. Elliott.
Not sure that's mine.
I'm just reading what it says on the Should I ask our policy committee?
Okay. I would ask that you approve the changes. Most of these are changes that resulted from changes in legislation. And it has been brought through the policy committee, so we kind of cleaned up any spelling stuff and that type of thing. But
Are there specific ones that aren't?
that aren't part of the legislation.
Because of legislation?
Yes, there are. There's a change to the credit card policy.
The one that's highlighted in red?
Yeah. That one's homegrown.
7,400.
I knew it.
And I think that's the only one.
Okay, thank you.
There's some forms that are intermixed in there that you really probably don't have to approve, but since we went through them, we wanted you to be aware of them. So we would ask that you just approve them as submitted, unless you want to pull them out and talk about them individually.
I'll move that we approve of as written.
Second. We have a motion and second. Do we have any discussion regarding the policies or the changes made there too? I see none. Do we have any comments from the public? All right, we have a motion and second to approve the policies and the changes as submitted. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The policies as updated and submitted are approved. Oh, I like that so much better than I could remember. Moving on, number 16, resolution to call for trustee elections. It is that time again, ladies and gentlemen. You have a resolution before you to call for elections. At this point, trustees, do you see any need for any additions or amendments to that resolution? Seeing no additions or amendments, I would ask you at this time to consider a motion to accept this resolution as submitted.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, do we have any comments? All right, all those in favor of passing the resolution for calling for a trustee election for 2018 signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Be it so resolved. All right, number 17. We can start in 10 minutes. I don't have to call for an extension.
Are you running?
Is it?
Put your name back in, Sal.
I am not running.
Oh, okay, it's 2 hours.
Yeah, it's 2 hours.
Yeah.
On retirement.
A retirement party, yeah.
We're talking about running down. Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Okay, number 17, recommendation to approve the change in bus route. Mr. Anderson, I always want to think about the Matrix when I say that. I love it. I'm such a sci-fi geek. Okay.
They built a apartment complex down by the aquatics center, and I think it's 36 units. They just start showing up. So well, right now, currently, we have an afternoon run that goes in there and takes care of them. Now we just want to make them a morning run to go take care of those students that are coming. We'll pick them up at the same aquatics parking lot. And we're just going to make it an AM run.
Okay.
So, Mike, are you saying that that's not part of, the city does not talk to you when the building is?
Nobody really told me, no, they just start showing up and we start getting these hostile phone calls.
Is that always been the case? So usually, like on the planning board, we get a packet from somebody, this is our development. And so they talk to lots of different people, and it's usually, so don't they usually contact you and say, here's what we're doing, does that cause any undue?
It's going to, we'll see if it's going to work, but usually developers will send us some kind of a packet that has the estimated occupancy and location and stuff. We didn't see anything.
Yeah,
Because usually that's part of the input that the board gets, is that you get, they talk to, the power company, the water company, and everybody else, and then you can actually sign your name, what the impact will be. So, and you didn't receive that from the city of Loudoun?
Nothing. We get them from the outlying areas.
Yeah.
What their date and then
Carson's is really good about letting us know, but we didn't see anything on this one. Yeah.
So do we know how many it holds? How many, is there like...
There's supposed to be 36 units is what the rumor is.
And are these 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, so...
Multiple. We haven't received any of that information. Right now we have about 4, 6, or 8 students that are currently showing up, so.
So, question for this bus route that goes to Finley Point, is this the same bus route that will be picking them up in the morning?
Yep.
So does that mean, are they getting picked up last, or are they getting picked up first in the morning?
They get picked up, they get. On the way back. Yeah, they'll be on the.
Way back.
On the way back, yes.
So does that mean, so everybody else will be getting picked up slightly early?
Yep.
Earlier?
It takes about 6 extra minutes to run up there and do that 2.2 miles.
Gotcha. And will this be starting then very soon?
Yep. As soon as you guys say yes.
Should we communicate?
And we're with the county superintendent, we're going to try it for 90 days and see if it's going to fit on that bus. She has this little temporary reimbursement plan for us, and if it looks like it's going to work, they'll make it permanent, and if not, we can adjust accordingly.
I move to accept the new restaurant. Stop.
Second. Wait a minute. So, motion? Steve, second. Okay, thank you.
Do we have any further discussion? Do you have any comments from the public? All those in favor of the new bus route change, signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? The bus route change is passed. Moving on, Mr. Anderson, you are popular. Recommendation to approve the bus purchase.
Two buses. Two buses.
Two buses. Two buses.
2 route buses. We currently have 2 of them in our fleet, and they're outstanding machines. So we'd like to put 2 more in our fleet.
And this comes out of bus depreciation,
Yes,
correct?
We're trading in 2 of our oldest. It's number 1 and 50.
And this is one of those that is like always in some kind of repair, isn't it?
No.
These older buses are, they actually are not, they're just timed out.
Oh, okay.
They're getting older, but they don't break down near as much as some of the newer buses we purchased. And I will say that if you notice, these are Thomas buses.
Right.
They got a little different design look on them. They've been holding up well. I think, as Mike just indicated, there's 2 of those Thomases in our fleet, and we've had good luck with them.
Okay.
If you look around, as you travel around different various cities, see what buses are running. I see a lot of these on the road right now, kind of keeping an eye on what's running and what's not. And Thomases are seeming to be holding it up.
Any questions, trustees?
Can I speak along those lines? So what's happening with those London buses or whatever they were? Is everything taken care of there?
Well, we have one. It's that latest activity bus has given us a ton of headaches. It's scheduled to go down, and they think it's because that we bought this $high air conditioning unit for the back end, and when they went out there and took it to the contractor after it was built, they were messed with an electrical box, and that's where most of our headaches are coming from. So it's going to spend a week down there in the shop and get retrofitted with a better system.
We're having problems with our travel buses. The newest one left is in Libby a while back. And it's, we've had some work taken care of with some legal letters.
Turnaround fair play, Libby broke down on her way to us.
It's catchy.
They're like stuck in Polson.
No,
So we've got, there's the newer buses with emissions are really causing the country issues. This is not Polson, it's those buses emissions that really have a rough time.
Deb, do I have a motion on the table yet?
Not for this.
Trustees, at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the purchase of 2 buses as the request has been submitted.
So moved.
Second. It is for 2 buses, correct?
Yes, it is. Yes, but did you get
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
It's gonna be me again. Okay. Sorry.
Yeah,
I'm the budget
that's
person
what you're here for.
May not be able to do my own, but do everybody else's. So we have enough money in the bus kind of depreciation to pay for these, so we're not coming out.
Yes.
That's all I wanted to know.
Any further discussion? Comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor of the purchase signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The bus purchase is approved. Moving on, number 19, recommendation to approve personnel report. Mr. Oates.
We have a report for each district. It's rather small this week. The state's kind of been a bottleneck with approving background checks, so we have quite a few out there, mainly for volunteers for the spring trip up to Glacier for minimum. So we'll have hopefully a bunch for next month, but this month is rather short. We just ask that you approve both reports as submitted.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Elliott.
I move that we report both the high school and the elementary school.
We need to do them separately.
All right. I'll do the high school.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the high school personnel report. Can I get a second? We have a motion and a second. Do we have
I'm
any?
sorry, who's second?
These
two have been like racing each other each time. So,
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the high school district personnel report. Do we have any further discussion? Do you have any comments from the public? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the high school district personnel report as submitted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The high school district personnel report is passed. Moving on to the personnel report for the elementary school district. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion? Seeing none, do we have any comments from the public? None. All right. All those in favor of approving the personnel report for the elementary school district signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The elementary school district personnel report is passed. Okay. Now finally, number 20, recommendation to approve the out-of-district report. Mr. Wells.
As submitted, I recommend that we approve the out-of-district elementary report.
And it is only one, it is for the elementary school district. All right, at this point, I would entertain a motion to approve the elementary district report.
So moved.
I have a motion, do I have a second? We have a motion and a second. Do we have any further discussion? Do we have any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of approving the motion before this board signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The motion passes. Seeing no further business before this board, I adjourn the meeting. Good job.
You bet, we're gonna do it.
I'm all for that, actually.
Maybe that.